It was a late night thriller for the Marlins that came up just short in extra innings, but it was one of my favorite games of the season, and I'm going to tell you why.
You are Locked On Marlins, your daily podcast on the Miami Marlins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Marlins. I'm your host, Jeremiah Geiger. I've been podcasting about the Marlins for almost 3 years now. Go over to X, hit me up at Jeremiah Geiger 2, and thank you for making Locked On Marlins your first listen of the day. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section. And on today's show, I'm going to talk about a really thrilling game for the Marlins. The opening game of the series against the Dodgers. They lost 7-6 in extra innings, but it was one of my most favorite games so far this season. The amount of fight they showed and unbelievable performances from some individual players. I'm going to talk about them. I'm also going to talk about AAA Jacksonville because today I'm driving up to Durham to go watch the Jumbo Shrimp play the Durham Bulls. Going to talk about what I'm excited to watch, what players I'm specifically looking for in this one. And before all that, I want to remind you that this episode is brought to you by Amazon Fire TV Stick 4K. Did you know your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. So this game, last night's game against the Dodgers started off like we would expect a game against the Dodgers to start. Edward Cabrera was on the mound for the Marlins. He's very inconsistent. You don't know what version of Edward Cabrera you're going to get, and usually it's the not good version. From recent history, Cabrera is just not the guy you want starting in a major league game. He can't get through the third time through the order. He can't do it. He walks too many people, gives up too much hard contact, and in this one he played with fire early on. Early in the game, he had the bases loaded, and he gets out of it. And the Marlins were hanging around. I tweeted out last night, I said, stay within striking distance. The key to this game was the Marlins staying within striking distance, not letting the Dodgers get away and win this game running away. And then a big 2-run home run for the Dodgers puts them up 5-0. Cabrera leaves the game in the 5th inning without recording an out. And it felt like a typical start. It felt like before the game you could have scripted this start for the Marlins. Edward Cabrera struggles. The Marlins offense is quieted. They lose this one by multiple runs. It's a slow, boring, methodical game. But that wasn't the case. Cabrera gets chased. The Marlins are, down 5-0, and you're watching this game. If you're on the East Coast and you're watching this, you're pretty fed up with this. You want to see more action out of from your team. You stay up late to watch them. You don't want this one to be slow and uncompetitive. And then in the top of the 6th inning, that's exactly what happened. This game turned competitive. The Marlins battled. First, they put up a run. Then it's 5-1, and then they load the bases. And you have Kyle Stowers up, who's hitting really well against left-handers this season. I know he's a lefty, but he's kind of been he's not matchup dependent. The splits for him don't matter this season. Kyle Stowers has been that good. But Clayton McCullough, who got celebrated today, his World Series winning team, the Los Angeles Dodgers, They had a ceremony before the game, and it was really great to see for Clayton as he got his World Series ring, got congratulated by all his former players. He makes the decision to pull Stowers from the game and pinch hit Dane Myers. And at first, I was thinking to myself, I'll be honest, I don't know why you do that right now, because Dane Myers is cold off the bench. Stowers, I know he's a lefty, but he has good splits against left-handers. Just let it ride. And boy, did Clayton hit the right button, because Dane Myers works a 3-1 count, gets a fastball up in the zone, and crushes it for a grand slam and ties this ball game. And I get off my couch and I literally just start dancing in celebration in my living room because of how hyped I was. Let's go win this game. Dane Myers, who, by the way, should be playing every single day, and I've been saying this for weeks now, especially with the injury to Griffin Conine, Dane Myers hits an absolute nuke, and the juice was brought back to the Marlins dugout. I just absolutely loved it. And I really quickly, I made a mistake right there. Dane Myers pinch hit for Matt Mervis. Connor Norby pinch hit for Stowers later in the game. So that I can understand. That I can understand it. There's so many pinch hit appearances for either team. Sometimes I get confused on when it happens for in which inning. But it was an awesome moment. The Dane Myers grand slam, from an excitement perspective and just being a fan, that's a top 5 moment in the season, without a doubt. Oh man, it felt so good to battle back and get back into a ball game that frankly you had no business winning. The Marlins were down 5-0 in it, and then suddenly they tie up the game 5-5, and then they stay deadlocked at 5-5. They don't immediately relinquish the lead. That was what I was most impressed with, was the ability, although they didn't pull ahead, they didn't lose it right after either. And for the next 4 innings, the 6th inning, 7th, 8th, 9th, the bullpen was absolutely elite. And they did what they had to do with high leverage arms. I'm going to talk about that bullpen and just how awesome it was right after this. Are you looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1-ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better-for-you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. There's 2 varieties. You got the no-shells variety, you have the in-shells variety. Personally, I grew up always having the in-shell variety just because I like that crack. I like taking the shell and just cracking it open. And there's something satisfying about that. You have that shell that's just easy to crack, and then sometimes you get that hard one. You got to take the other shell and crack it open. It's a whole ordeal. But if you want something that's just grab and go, you're hungry, you want a snack, reach in the cupboard, grab the no-shell variety. They got them in the bags. It's super easy, and they're super delicious. Wonderful Pistachios has a complete protein. It provides all 9 essential amino acids, and they pack a protein punch. So if you're running between the meetings, you're dropping off the kids, you're about to go see a baseball game, Wonderful Pistachios are the snack that works as hard as you do. Get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. If you're an everyday listener of Locked On Marlins, thank you for being a part of the Locked On Marlins crew. And if this is your first time checking us out here, make sure you subscribe, leave a like, and leave a comment. Don't forget to come back every Monday through Friday for your daily Marlins content. And this bullpen for the Marlins last night was just elite. In the biggest moments, they stepped up. And guys that I had high expectations for to start the season showed up in the bright lights. In the bright lights of LA, of Hollywood, these Marlins did not shy away from that. Cabrera did pitch 4 innings. He can't make it 3 times through the order. He got chased in the 5th at almost 100 pitches. So Lake Bacher comes in. Lake Bacher's been awesome. Gave up 1 hit. That was it. Didn't walk anyone. Veneziano, a little shaky. He gave up a hit. He walked somebody. There was a little bit of traffic on the bases for the Marlins. Didn't matter. Got out of it. And how about Anthony Bender? His control was a little bit shaky. You know what? He did what he needed to do to get out of the inning. He didn't give up that loud double or a home run or that single that continues the lineup chain and the Dodgers just take the lead. Because you know what? It kind of felt at some points that the Dodgers were just going to take the lead right back after Dane Myers hit the grand slam. That was not the case. When your starter gives you 4 innings and you have to cover the next 5, and in this case, you have to cover 6 because it went to extras and you had to pitch the 10th inning, and unfortunately, that's where the Marlins ran out of gas. It's a tall task for any bullpen, especially the Marlins, which is, I would say, one of the most worked bullpens in Major League Baseball. They have to do so much every single game for this team because their starters are not giving them enough depth, enough innings. But Tinoco comes in, nails. He strikes out Shohei Ohtani, Mookie Betts, 2 of the best hitters to walk this planet. And then Calvin Fauché in the 9th, when the Dodgers can go walk it off, 3 strikeouts. Struck out the side. He's turned it around. I'll say that much. Calvin Fauché has absolutely turned it around. My confidence in him as a pitcher is completely restored. Same with Tinoco and Bacher. I've talked about Bacher. I'm a huge believer in Lake, the Great Lake of Bacher. And then you have Anthony Bender as well, who's been in those high leverage moments and who really hasn't faltered yet. 1.64 ERA for Anthony Bender. And then in the 10th, they just ran out of gas. But I don't want this to be a testament to the Marlins bullpen just isn't good right now, because they're improving, and those individual performances from specific high leverage pitchers is what kept the Marlins in this game. It was not Edward Cabrera. Dane Myers in the bullpen. Those guys right there went toe-to-toe with the LA Dodgers and gave the Marlins a chance to pull off a victory on Monday night. What does this mean for the Marlins moving forward? Well, specifically for Edward Cabrera, I don't know how much more the Marlins can afford to take this. He's just not a starting pitcher. They're watching the same starts I'm watching. And I don't want to sound like a broken record on the show, but his ERA is over 7 now. He can't get through the third. He can't get 3 times through the order. He just can't. For whatever reason, his stuff and the way he sequences his pitches, it just doesn't work. The control flies out the window. And if you're counting on every once in a blue moon, Edward Cabrera to give you 8 scoreless or 7 scoreless or strike out 12 and that's why you're running him out there, because of the sheer talent, then I think you're not doing it the right way if you're the Marlins. I've seen pitchers with control problems, failed starters, end up become weapons in the bullpen. First name that comes to mind, Jeff Hoffman. Jeff Hoffman was a high draft pick by the Colorado Rockies, and I know Colorado is an awful place to pitch, but Hoffman was an atrocious starter. His ERA was bloated. He couldn't pitch at all as a starting pitcher. He was a bust for that high of a draft pick, and then he transitions to the bullpen and has worked his way up to becoming one of the premier closers in Major League Baseball. Who's to say that couldn't happen with Edward Cabrera? He has the stuff. We know that. His stuff is nasty and borderline unhittable at times. But between the ears and his ability or inability to not walk people is just not making him an effective starter. Running up high pitch counts. Can't have 100 pitches in 4+ innings. Can't even get through 5. I don't know if the Marlins are ever going to commit to making Edward Cabrera a reliever, but I think it's worth a shot. But the bullpen, the current bullpen, as it stands, I think it's very clear who the high leverage guys are. And until Andrew Nardi and Declan Cronin come back, Clayton McCullough rolled with his high leverage pitchers until he couldn't. And then that's when the Marlins lost. And I think that was because he really wanted to beat his former team. And once Dane Myers put them back in it and tied it all up, there was no reason why he couldn't. He rolled out his high leverage guys. Lake Bacher, high leverage. He's been the best Marlins reliever this season. Veneziano is high leverage because he's the only lefty the Marlins have. And in that spot, he had to face Ohtani. He had to face left-handed hitters. McCullough was bringing in Veneziano. Bender, he's a high leverage guy for the Marlins. Tinoco, he's closed games. He's been the Marlins closer at times. High leverage. Same with Calvin Fauché, who literally was awesome. Struck out 3. Struck out all 3 Dodgers right there. He did walk 1, but other than that, he was nails. And then in the 10th, that's where you don't have any of these high leverage arms. Ronnie Enriquez has to come into the game, and you give up the walk-off hit. Tommy Edman walks it off on a 2-run single, and unfortunately, the Fish can't get it done. What that means for tomorrow or today on Tuesday, the bullpen might be cooked. They might need a really effective start from Sandy Alcantara to have a chance in this one, because I don't know who you throw out after a 10-inning game in which your starter only got 12 outs, only 4 innings, pitched into the 5th, but got chased. I guess it's going to be, a Tyler Phillips game. If Sandy Alcantara can't get through 5-6 innings, I would love to see Sandy go 7 innings. And that's a tall task against the Dodgers. But the bullpen needs it because they were awesome on Monday. But they might be out of gas on Tuesday. And that's just the nature of the game. This is baseball. When it happens so often, when your starters aren't giving you enough length, then your bullpen, the load is always going to rest on their shoulders, and you're going to live by the bullpen, you're going to die by the bullpen. And that's just how it works. I am going to the Marlins AAA game, the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp game in Durham. They're playing the Durham Bulls. After I record this podcast, I'm going to drive up there. I'm going to go check it out, watch these guys. I also got the ticket on Gametime, so I think that's pretty cool because I always do the ad reads for Gametime. $10 ticket right behind the visitors' dugout. Pretty cool, just a few rows back. But I'm going to tell you what I'm excited to watch for, what players I can't wait to watch in this one. That's coming up right after this. The NBA playoffs are here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. FanDuel makes betting so easy, whether it's picking your favorite team or diving into player props. From three-pointers to assists to steals, FanDuel has so many ways to bet your favorite player props. And after the game tips off, you can even combine live prop bets into a same-game parlay for a chance to win big. You know, I haven't been watching the NBA too much, but I haven't been watching that Lakers series a little bit. If I was going to put a parlay on, same-game parlay, I'm looking at LeBron, I'm looking at Luka, because their backs are against the wall. They're down 3-1. I know this isn't Locked On Lakers, but I am a Luka fan. And our guy, Nick Angstad, over on Locked On Mavs, I know he's a Luka fan. Unfortunately, he's not on the Mavs anymore. But I think LeBron and Luka could go off in this one. So don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. Again, that's with your first $5 bet. Thank you for making Locked On Marlins your first listen of the day. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed, but you can always listen to the pod as well. We're on all the major podcast platforms. And if you're watching on YouTube, you'll notice I got my Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp hat on because I'm about to head up to Durham to go watch the Jumbo Shrimp take on the Durham Bulls. That's the AAA team for the Tampa Bay Rays. And Jacksonville will be in North Carolina all week. So I'm at least going to make this one this morning. Figured it was a good thing to do. It's an 11:05 first pitch on Tuesday morning. It's going to be a fun time. But what am I excited for? Because this AAA team for the Marlins is really good. Like, I know records in minor league baseball might not necessarily matter in the grand scheme of things, but I think it does in this case. When you're 21-6, and that's the Jumbo Shrimp's record right now, that is indicative of a lot of talent on this team. The Marlins have a wave of talent coming into their organization, coming into the major leagues. And it starts naturally with AAA. That's the closest level to the majors. There's a lot of exciting prospects. First one I want to mention, though, is Troy Johnston. Really excited to watch Troy play. He's heated up after a slow start because he's a professional hitter. He's a really good hitter of the baseball. That's what he does. And that's what he's been doing for years. And he started out slow and heated up. And I look at that batting average climb. I look at the OPS continue to climb. He's a really good player, guys. Really excited to watch him. The lineup hasn't came out yet, but he's the Durham Bulls starter is a right-hander, so I would assume and I hope Troy Johnston is in the game. Also, really excited to see Deyvison De Los Santos. Can De Los Santos be the other piece of the Marlins thunder at some point? Can he be a tandem with Agustin Ramirez for years to come? That would be huge for this organization because those two prospects were the most exciting prospects the Marlins acquired at the deadline last year, at least hitting prospects. Ramirez from the Yankees, De Los Santos from the Diamondbacks. De Los Santos, the reigning home run champion throughout the minor leagues. Agustin Ramirez, we've seen what he can do and do already at the major league level. When is De Los Santos' turn? It always comes down to the chase rate. It comes down to the strikeout rate. He's cut down the chase rate to this point. It's hovering around 32%, which is huge compared to last year when it was about 45. So De Los Santos is making better swing decisions. He's still striking out a lot, still striking out about 31% of the time. Not as concerned with that as more just his approach, because the strikeout rate was actually lower last year in total. So I think it's going to go under 30, which is still high, but I can live with it. If he can keep his strikeout rate 25, 27%, that would be ideal. It's the chase rate that I'm worried about, because if he's chasing AAA sliders and AAA curveballs out of the zone at that level, in the major leagues, it's going to be that much better of a pitch, and he's going to be fooled that much more. So that's why, to me, chase rate is so important. You just don't want to, have that number elevated to a point where you're just going to be helpless at the major league level. But De Los Santos is so talented. He can be a huge addition to the Marlins and play some first base in the future. Because right now the Marlins they're flexible with Eric Wagaman. Wagaman can play left. He could play third, although that's Connor Norby's position. But Wagaman's been a hitter, so you're not going to move him out of the lineup right now. But De Los Santos, I don't know when a call-up would be. I would assume a few more weeks, June or closer to the deadline. They want to give him a lot of time, and I'm sure continue to work and ingrain his approach at the plate down in the minors. But nonetheless, he's so talented. Joe Mack. Now, Joe Mack, to me, is the catcher of the future. And Valente Bayozo is pitching for the Jumbo Shrimp. I hope Joe Mack is catching, because I want to see this guy defensively, and I want to see his stick in the lineup. Like, he is so good that, to me, it's a foregone conclusion that at some point Agustin Ramirez will move off of catcher, and Joe Mack will be the catcher of the future, the true backstop for the Marlins for years to come. He's really good defensively, and he's really good offensively. He has a ton of power from the left side. The question was his hit tool, and I think his hit tool is going to be just fine. It's going to be just fine in the major leagues. We look at somebody like Cal Raleigh, that type of pop. Joe Mack will be a doubles machine. He's going to be a home run machine. Maybe the batting average isn't extremely high. It doesn't matter. For the catching position, Joe Mack is everything you want in a prospect. And I think you look at Agustin Ramirez, you look at Joe Mack, both those guys have so much talent to add to that position that we're sitting here in 2025. That's a good problem to have if you're talking about potentially moving Agustin Ramirez off the position, because that means you have somebody who's really good back there, both offensively and defensively. And that's something the Marlins just haven't had for a few years. And then the last player I want to talk about, Max Acosta. The middle infield for the Marlins as an organization this season has been shaky. Xavier Edwards has had a slow start. Otto Lopez has been slumping. His average is now lower in the 200s. It was 214 at the start of yesterday's game. It hasn't been great. Max Acosta also hasn't been great, but he had a really good spring training. The organization believes in him. I'm excited to go up and watch him as well, because him and Jared Cerna are two guys who I was really high on before the season as prospects. And it's still early. We're not through the month of April yet. Sometimes they're just traditional slow starters. Baby Max Acosta is just off to a slow start to his season. But it felt like the Marlins had some serious infield depth in this org throughout the major league level, in AAA, AA. And I guess the shine wore off a little bit due to these slow starts. But I'm still not worried. I'm still a believer in Max Acosta. I still think what he brings defensively is valuable, and I still think his offensive floor is relatively safe. He's just in a slump. But either way, the Marlins at the big league level tonight, Sandy Alcantara takes the mound. We're still waiting to see vintage Sandy. Coming off of Tommy John surgery, the first thing you notice, the stuff is there. But the command, the execution of his pitches, where he wants them to be exactly, everything that makes Sandy so great has not yet fully been together. And he has a big task ahead of him because the Dodgers, they're no joke. That lineup is really, really good. Ask Edward Cabrera about that. But he gets an opportunity. It's going to be another late night with the Fish. But I'll be up. I'll be watching. And hopefully you will be as well. That's going to do it for today's edition of Locked On Marlins. For your second listen of the day, go check out the new Locked On MLB Game Night over on the Locked On MLB channel. Every game, every night. Your team, of course, is the Marlins. And with that, guys, stay safe, stay locked on, and let's go fish.